So I'm Emma, this is the Alpha Sessions, and I'm with Steve Young. Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm alright.
You have just released your debut album.
I have indeed. It's actually been knocking around for a while because it was all raised and funded by Pledge Music, which is a crowdfunding thing. So those guys actually got it back in May.
Has it been a long time coming? I mean, why now?
Yeah, I don't know, 25 years maybe.
So fairly long time coming.
Fairly long time coming.
Why did you decide to do it now?
Well, I've been a session guitarist for a long time. I started out playing when I was 17, living on the Isle of Wight, of all places. I had an original band and stuff, and wasn't really going anywhere. I mean, it was really hard. We did the best we could and got played on local radio and all that sort of stuff. But I saw an advert for a band in London that were looking for a guitarist, and they were signed to ZTT Warner, and it was just too much for me to ignore. And I went up to London, auditioned, and got the job. So I went and joined that band and recorded an album. We did sort of 2 years worth of touring and stuff, and then it all fell apart. And I was kind of faced with the choice of carry on down that path and try and make it myself. And at that time I didn't really have any material. I hadn't really written a song. And then the opportunity to become a session player came along. It's a very long, convoluted story, and I'm not going to go into it. But by a random chance conversation in a pub in Camden, I ended up in the session world. And my kind of the first people I played for, it was kind of TV stuff, and I was playing for people like Lionel Richie and Peter Andre, and when they do things like Top of the Pops and CD UK and stuff, they need a band on stage, and most of it was miming, but what it did do was give me an insight into the kind of professional circus that goes on around that kind of stuff. And there's actually a lot of things that I learned from doing that. I spent a couple of years doing it. And so then that got me geared up to be a session player, because once you, even if you're miming, once you've been on TV with people like Lionel Richie, you can then say, well, look, I've been behind cameras, I've been on TV, I know how it all works. I ended up becoming, I did loads of, that went on to loads of live sessions. I hooked up with some management companies and stuff, and ended up playing sort of small gigs, one-off tours and stuff, things like I'd do Glastonbury for an artist. And so I did a lot of live stuff then. And that ended up with me getting hooked up with Darren Hayes, who's the lead singer from Savage Garden.
Yeah.
Obviously, massive band, sold millions of records, no longer together, they broke up. But Darren was a solo artist and had been for quite some time, and he had a tour coming up, and he was desperately looking for a guitarist and not having any luck. And then he was given my MySpace page. How about that?
Wow.
He was given
that date's a lovely.
He was given a link to, it was only 2007. he was given a link to my MySpace page, and he looked it up, and I went into a studio and to meet him and learnt some of his songs, and we had a jam and sang a bit and played a bit together, and I got into his band, and 3 weeks later I was in Australia touring with him.
That's mad.
Yeah, it was completely mad, because I was a primary school teacher at the time, and I'd pretty much given up guitar, Oh,
wow.
Basically, when Lionel Richie came along, I'd given up guitar, and he got me back into it. And then when that kind of slowed down a bit, I was teaching full-time as a primary school guitar teacher, going around to about 15 different primary schools in Hertfordshire teaching guitar. And then the Darren Hayes thing came along, and suddenly I was in Australia, and that lasted 5 years.
Can just imagine that letter of resignation. Sorry, I'm off to play with Darren Hayes. See you later, bye.
To be honest, I tried to juggle the two, because I hate letting people down, and I had 150 kids, and I knew
Australia to Hertfordshire, that's quite a commute.
I know, but and I knew every single one of these kids like really well, and it was so hard to kind of turn my back on it, and I tried to juggle it, and in the end I was missing so many lessons. It was just kind of like, you can't do this job anymore, can you? And I was like, I'm really sorry, I can't.
Aww.
So I ended up with Darren for 5 years and became a co-writer on his last album, wrote a song on there, which got me, sorry, there's a long story, but there's a point to it. It got me back into songwriting. And then having a co-write on Darren's album then got me co-writing with other producers in London. I started working with a producer, and I actually co-wrote with him for about 3 or 4 years, from sort of 2011 onwards. And I co-wrote with about 70 different artists, a lot of which nothing came from. That's the kind of thing you're pitching all the time.
Yeah.
But I've had a couple of songs on Home and Away, and I've had another one on a BBC children's TV programme that was out. And so that got me back into songwriting. And then 2013, a couple of friends of mine had EPs out, and I was really jealous because I wanted one too. So I put out an EP, and that was it. It was just put out an EP, sign it off the list, done it.
I have to say, it's not very often I hear someone say, "Oh, I just released an EP because everyone else was doing it." And I was jealous.
It coincided with a couple of things. I was married, and my marriage broke up, and I started. I was working on Scandinavian cruise ferries at the time, month-long gigs, playing every night for 5 hours every night. So it's just you just knackered the whole time. You do your 5 hour stint, which after a month really, your voice you turn into Johnny Cash by the end of the stint. But there's a lot of downtime. You just spending a lot of time sitting around on the ship, and my home life was falling apart. And I was on a ship and couldn't do anything about it. So I just started writing about how I felt, and that was a turning point for me, because as a guitarist, I always used to write songs with the music first, and then found that I just couldn't then take it any further. Whereas when I was on the ship, I couldn't play the guitar because I had to rest my fingers. I literally couldn't speak or play guitar for the whole time during the day, just to make sure that I could get through the 5 hours that night. Yeah. So I just started writing down how I felt, and then I had the content, and I had what the song was about, and that's where the songs for the first EP kind of came about. And then a couple of my friends had EPs out, and I wanted to get on that particular bandwagon as well. So, and it just kept snowballing. And I did the EP, and I went over to New York and launched it over there, because a lot of Darren's fans were in America. There's another guy I played with after Darren, a very famous West End actor, and he was on Broadway for a couple of years as well. So between him and Darren's fans, they were mostly in America. So I went over to the US and promoted the EP, and then it just kept going, and songs kept coming. And
do you prefer writing your own stuff, or do you prefer playing for other people?
I prefer the feeling. Of playing my own stuff, because it feels much more rewarding. Yeah. But obviously it's a lot harder, because I can turn up to the Royal Albert Hall and play for Darren. It's awesome. I'm playing to 5,000 people, but it's his gig. It's not my gig, and the pressure's different, and the responsibilities are different. But the feel-good factor is also different. And although it's amazing to stand on a stage like Wembley Arena or the Albert Hall and feel that hit of all those people, something about walking out in front of 20 people and doing your own song, connecting with them, and then selling a few CDs afterwards. Yeah. It's just a whole different thing, and I love it. And I actually loved it so much that I did say to myself, right, that's it, I'm done with playing with other people. But then a couple of weeks ago, I was on a songwriting retreat down in Glastonbury, and through another long convoluted story, I ended up playing guitar with Dave Stewart from Eurythmics on the last night. Wow. And I just thought, actually, I quite like this. I quite like playing, because now I've done it. Now I've written my own songs and released the EP and released the album. I discovered that I felt differently about playing for other people.
There's nothing that says you can't do both.
No, and then that was a Thursday night, and then the Sunday I played in Trafalgar Square with Ramin, the West End guy. We did some. Basically, we do like country bluegrass versions of really famous theatre songs. Okay. Look up Broadgrass. Look up the Broadgrass band if you're interested. Cool. And we played in Trafalgar Square to 20,000 people, and and they're all singing along. And I thought, actually, I quite like this. Yeah. No, I can do both. I can do both, because I was walking around backstage giving my album to everybody. So they're like, oh, this is your full-time job. And it's like, well, here's my full-time job, but here's my album. Yeah. So this
is what I do in my other life.
So the whole psychology of it's changed. It's just a journey that I'm going through. And now, if Darren phoned me up, or Ramin phoned me up, or anyone, Dave Stewart, if you're listening, if anyone phones me up and says, look, I've got a gig, come and play for me, I'll have a completely different outlook on it now, because I've got my album, I'm doing my own thing, I'm getting some radio play, I'm doing interviews with lovely people like yourself. Aww. And so it feels good to play with other people as well. Do
you get over that whole surreal moment quite quickly?
No. It was so surreal playing Trafalgar Square couple of weeks ago that there was one chorus where I knew that I wasn't going to play the guitar, and I had my camera in my back pocket ready, and I just filmed 20,000 people singing the People song from Les Mis.
Wow.
And no, that surreal feeling never goes away, you know, which is a good thing, which is good because it recharges your batteries when you're going around. I'm not going for the sympathy vote here, by the way, but when you are going around driving miles and miles trying to promote yourself, and it's really hard, you know, you're knocking on doors, and especially when you're starting out quite late, you know, I'm coming into it probably 20 years too late for a singer-songwriter, but it's not like I picked the guitar up yesterday. I've been in the industry since I was
so in theory, you know the right people to talk to, and you know how to speed up the process.
But kind of, and it's just trying to get those people to sort of go, yeah, hold on, you're the guy that we know as Darren's guitarist, and now you're giving me your album. Is it like Darren's music? And it's like, no, it's actually country, kind of blues, pop, acoustic, folk, everything that I've been listening to and playing for the last 30, 25 years, you know. Not 30 years, I'm not that old. Your tears fall so slowly down your beautiful face, and I'm trying to reach you. We feel so damn low. Why can't we just talk, make this pain go away? And I'm feeling this bad when you're sleeping there, with your back to mine, with your back to mine. In my dream we made up, instead I woke up with your back to mine, with your back to mine. Oh, no. Time felt so holy with your lips on. Wish we could be there again. Defiantly we stand, but life is too short to keep this anger burning. I'm feeling despair when you're sleeping there, with your back to mine, with your back to mine. In my dream we made up, instead I woke up with your back to mine, with your back to mine. No, no, oh no. And your eyes, they burn in my mind. We can't turn back the time. Rest your head next to mine. Oh, 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 oh. And I'm feeling despair when you're sleeping there, with your back to mine, with your back to mine. In my dreams we made up, instead I woke up with your back to mine, 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 with your back to mine. Oh no, 'cause when will it end?
The Alpha Sessions.
Did you start playing the guitar from quite young then, or?
No, I was 17. I got my first guitar on my 17th birthday because, yeah, I was going to tell you the story, but it's stupid now. When you think about it now, it's stupid. I'd saved up some money to go and visit my girlfriend who was living in Birmingham, and she dumped me, so I spent the money on a guitar instead.
What, just because you felt like it?
No, I went. You got to understand, the Isle of Wight's a very small place, and my older sister, had a spare ticket to see this band called Pink Floyd, and they were playing Pink Floyd, and they were playing at Wembley Stadium, and Wembley Stadium holds about 90,000 people. And the population of the Isle of Wight around that time was just over 100,000 people. So as a 16-year-old, leaving the island, taking the train up to London, going to Wembley Stadium, and seeing, I mean, you can't. It's the first time I'd ever seen that many people in one place in my life. There isn't a lot of stuff like that happens. There is now. You've got the Isle of Wight Festival, but that wasn't going on back then. And just seeing Pink Floyd at that gig just completely changed my life. And I walked out of there just knowing that I wanted to be a guitarist, and so it all kind of fell into place. You know, it was quite convenient that my girlfriend in Birmingham decided to get back with her ex-boyfriend, because it meant that I could spend the money on a guitar instead. So thanks, Joe.
I think light bulb moments like that, where whenever they happen, are brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's good. It
happened for a reason.
God, it wasn't a light bulb moment. It was like the moment when an eclipse passes and the sun comes back out. I can't describe how mega it was. I mean, I think kids now, I say kids like I'm an old guy, but it's just different now, and it's normal for people to go to concerts and watch huge concerts on TV and on YouTube and stuff, and it's not. Maybe the first time you take your kids to Glastonbury, or the first time you take them to Reading Festival or something, they'll get that feeling. But I was so unprepared for how I was going to feel when I walked into Wembley Stadium that day. I mean, I knew where I was going, but I had no idea what it was going to feel like. I didn't know what 90,000 people looked like, you know. So
now you definitely do.
Yeah, I play to bigger crowds now.
There you go.
Yeah.
You were just telling us about the difference between your stripped back session now to your super full production of the album.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, all the songs are written in the kind of stripped back, one man and his guitar type fashion, but I never wanted to, this first album anyway, I never wanted it to be like that. I wanted it to have everything on it, and I've just, through my years as a session player, I've just met some amazing musicians. You know, the people that are playing on the record are real top draw musicians.
How did you choose?
Basically, it came down to I knew exactly who I wanted, and it was just a case of hassling them until they said yes. And some of them weren't even in the country, and I had to, you know, I mean, the whole album took about 6 months to make, and that was mostly because I was just waiting for people to be available. I always knew who I wanted on it. I don't think there was.
So you had a picture before you went in, or as you were writing the album, the picture started to create itself?
I think when I write the songs, I try and imagine who's going to be. I mean, I'm not, well, like Gemma, who sings all the backing vocals. I know exactly how her voice sounds, and she's got a bit of a Janis. She's a pop singer. I mean, she's got her own career as a pop singer, but she has got a real Janis Joplin thing going on. If I let her go, you know, and I don't think she's allowed to do it much on her pop records. So she really goes for it, and Kenny Dickinson, the keyboard player, he's played with some, you know, absolute legends in his life, and he's just got such great feel. I just give him the chord chart, and everything that comes out of his fingers is magic. So I always knew who I wanted.
Do you end up having to play the role of director as well, or do you just kind of leave them to it?
Turns out I'm a bit of a control freak, and when I start the day and say, I really don't know what I want on this. I haven't got anything in mind is an absolute lie, because for some reason, the minute they start playing, I'm like, actually, what I'd really like is if you did this. But sometimes it was an instant thing. It'd be like they'll be messing about trying a few chords, and they'll just hit one note, and I'll be like, that's the note. I want that note. And it just unfolds, and I found that all the sessions just naturally unfolded, and then I got into gear. Yeah, I was a bit of a control freak, but I guess if you know what you want, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't think I want my next album to be quite so full on though.
So there's going to be a next one.
Yeah, for this album's got 13 songs on it. Well, 12 actually. 12 songs. It's got 13 including the intro, but that was whittled out of 27 songs that I wanted to choose from. And some of the songs that didn't make it on the album are still some of my favourite songs. And but I think the next album I want to do it more kind of back to how I wrote them, sort of. So guitar, acoustic guitar, maybe a little bit percussion.
More back.
But I'm not going to go for the. I love the Hammond organ and I love the Wurlitz, so we're just talking about that. I love all those kind of vintage sounds and stuff, but they do take up a lot of space, and they do date a record as well. As soon as you stick a Hammond organ on there, it's like, oh, it reminds me of the Eagles, or something. So I think I want to go for a more stripped back approach.
So we're not going to have to wait another 25 years, which is good.
No,
Okay.
you won't. Maybe a couple of years. I fell into a burning ring of fire, went down, 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 the flames went higher. Love is a burning thing, and it makes a fiery ring. Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire, went down, 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 and the flames went higher. Burns, burns, in a ring of fire, in a ring of fire. Taste of love is sweet when hearts like ours meet. I fell for you like a child, oh, and the fire went wild. I fell into a burning ring of fire, went down, 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 the flames went higher, and it burns, 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 in a ring of fire, in a ring of fire. Bum ba dum ba dum ba dum bum, bum ba dum ba dum ba dum bum, bum ba dum ba dum ba dum bum. I fell into a burning ring of fire, went down, 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 the flames went higher, and it burns, 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 in a ring of fire, in a ring of fire.
The Alpha Sessions.
You played some fantastic gigs with some massive names.
Yeah.
Any stick out to you as like a massive highlight, or?
I suppose being a huge Eric Clapton fan, and having seen him many times at the Royal Albert Hall, playing there. I played the Royal Albert Hall when I was playing guitar with Darren Hayes, and that was just such a massive buzz, because I was just walking around backstage thinking, I wonder if Clapton's walked down his corridor. I wonder which was his dressing room. I wonder,
Did you find out?
No.
Oh.
No. Where's the secret tunnel that him and Queen Victoria used to use? Apparently, there's a secret tunnel into the Albert Hall, which Queen Victoria used to use, and apparently Clapton uses it as well to avoid all the fans that hang around the stage door. But that could be complete nonsense. That could be a myth.
I reckon there's an element of truth to that.
sounds like the sort of thing that would happen, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
If you were Queen Victoria, you'd want a tunnel into the Royal Albert Hall.
If you were
wouldn't
Eric Clapton, you'd want a tunnel into the Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah, maybe. maybe. Anyway, yeah, so probably the Albert Hall. But then another gig I was really excited to do was we played the Roxy in LA, and I'm quite a when I was in sixth form, Appetite for Destruction had just come out, and and my cousin as well. We're massive Guns N' Roses fans, and there's a lot of history with next door to the Roxy is the Rainbow, which is a kind of bar which around that time was just an 24-hour party of all the big LA rock bands and stuff, and just sort of to play the Roxy and sit upstairs in the dressing room where, you know, Guns N' Roses used to hang out, and then go across next door to the Rainbow and see all the pictures on the wall of all the stuff that's gone down in there. So that was another real big buzz for me as well, you know.
How did you get from the rock to the whole country blues thing?
Well, the rock thing was before I was playing guitar. My best mate Jason, from the age of about 12 or 13, we were massive Iron Maiden fans, like obsessed. Like we would spend hours and hours like picking over the artwork, trying to find every little clue and every. I don't know if you probably people don't know. I'm sure they do actually, but there's a little tiny symbol on every single Iron Maiden piece of artwork. You know, every album cover, every poster, there's a little tiny symbol. And we used to, when a new one came out, we'd spend hours just trying to find the symbol because it was always hidden away somewhere. But so from the age of 13, I was a massive rock fan, like proper, like I was well into heavy metal and stuff. But then when I started playing guitar, because it was kind of Pink Floyd that inspired me to play the guitar originally, and then I got into Eric Clapton and all the blues players, B.B. King, Albert Collins, Gary Moore, and all these kind of people. So, and if you're learning to play guitar, learning to play blues is the best way to do it, because it gives you so much freedom, and it's actually quite simple. You know, it's all based around the same kind of chord structures, so that once you get the blues format down, it's quite easy to progress as a guitarist. And so that really kind of got me into blues and the whole heavy metal thing. And then I didn't really like where it went. You know, I didn't really like. I kind of stopped following it after that. But then when I came to London, the band I was in was very much inspired by bands like Smashing Pumpkins and Soundgarden, Flaming Lips, Spiritualized, all kinds of a lot of the Seattle bands and stuff, Nirvana. So then I kind of got back into the whole heavy rock thing again. And then I don't know, maybe just as I got a bit older and mellowed a bit, and I predominantly play acoustic guitar, you know, for my full-time job. So I just feel a lot more comfortable with an acoustic guitar, and so I just kind of got back to it that way.
Because you've done so many live performances, there must be an element of ritual or something before you go on stage. Is there something that you have to do before you go on stage?
I have to have an opportunity to get in the zone.
Okay.
Not so much with some of the corporate stuff, because it is just a job, and I'm just so used to doing it. I mean, I'll probably do at least 250 gigs a year. So my ritual for gigs is driving to the gig. I really find it weird when I've got someone in the car with me when I'm driving to a gig. It messes with my head.
So you have to drive on your own?
I prefer it. Sometimes it's not always possible, but I prefer to drive alone to gigs, because that's my kind of, as my mate would call it, it's the bubble.
So don't ask Steve for a lift. That's the lesson.
But if it's an original gig, I just need a few minutes to zone out, do a few little finger warm ups, just get myself into the right headspace. Because what I never want to do is mix up my kind of corporate entertainment gigs with my original gigs. I don't want either to sound the same. Because
how do you make sure they don't?
The corporate gigs are always generally about just bashing the hell out of the guitar and trying to get people on their feet and party. And I really didn't want to do that with my own stuff. I didn't want to get on a stage with my acoustic guitar and start thrashing through my original songs. And I did do that at the start, and I came away from the gigs feeling really disappointed in myself that I hadn't projected emotionally. I hadn't projected as a musician. So the only way I could do it was I started playing my covers gigs in the way that I'd play my original gigs, and so I stopped bashing the guitar and I concentrated more on the rhythm and the groove and the percussion, and so that's the way I got around it. Basically, is you can't do 250 gigs a year doing covers and not let that bleed into your day-to-day life. So I had to change that format, and it works weirdly.
So it's a mindset thing, kind of.
It's all about a mindset, yeah, and and weirdly it works, and it's just about confidence as well, because I was absolutely so petrified and nervous when I did my first gig of my own stuff. I mean, when you're nervous, you play fast and you mess things up. And I think as I've got more confident and I really make an effort to pull back and not rush through it and think about what I'm trying to say. This is my life. These are my words. They're all true. I don't write songs about fiction. They're all real things that have happened to me. So I just wanted to make sure that message came across. Does that answer the question?
Yes. Did you pick up any tips from any of the people that you played with, any of the superstars?
Yeah, definitely. Probably not so much from a musical point of view, because we are so different. I mean, Darren's very electro pop, and Ramin is very kind of acoustic Broadway tunes played in a bluegrass style. So, but what I did learn from these guys, because obviously they've spent so much time doing promo and speaking to people like yourself and sitting in front of a camera, I really sort of took on board, how the whole nuts and bolts of the industry works, and particularly with radio, because when you're going around radio stations, everyone's just doing their job, and of course they're excited to see you, especially if you're a famous star. They're excited to see you, but they still got to get what they need, and they still got to do it, in time. And what gets me is how quick sometimes these things go. It's like you're literally in and out of radio stations in 5 or 10 minutes, and it's all so slick and professional. And so I think that's what I kind of learned, was just how to go about the day-to-day practical business of being a musician and promoting yourself. And they're very humble. Like Darren, when Darren's dealing with people like that, he's very humble, and so is Ramin, and even Lionel Richie. Like, I mean, I'm sat in a room at the Graham Norton show about to do this performance with Lionel Richie, and he's just like, does my shirt look all right? Is this the kind of thing someone would wear on this show? And help yourself to my food. I've got all this food. I'm not going to eat it. Get stuck in, and what's Graham like? And it's just like so humble. And I'm just sitting there thinking, it's Lionel Richie, and he's talking to me. So no, I did learn a lot from them. Just it's unbelievable how hard these people work. And you think that you see them the way the press might portray them. They come across as these kind of in the limelight superstars, having the good life, but they work so hard, so much harder than probably anyone would ever imagine. If you just spent 24 hours with one of these guys, from when you wake up and meet for breakfast in the hotel in the morning to when you finally say goodnight and you drop into bed, and you do this night after night after night. I mean, especially if in America, like I think I spent 28 days back to back with Darren going around America doing stuff like this, 3 or 4 shows a day, and that would be with a flight in between the radio stations. So you do one in Dallas, get on a flight, go to Memphis, do one, get on a flight, go to St. Louis, get on the flight, go to your next hotel, which will be Phoenix, get up in early 7 o'clock in the morning in Phoenix to do a TV show, get on a flight, go to LA. It's really hard work, and until you've actually been with these people and seen how much hard work goes into it, then you start to get an idea of why some people make it and some people don't. And I can't wait for the day when I'm jumping on flights between radio stations. Although I did drive from the Isle of Wight today. I had an interview this morning on the Isle of Wight, and then I drove to here. So
that's where it all starts.
111 miles from the 2 places, just in case you're wondering.
Good to know. What's next?
The album came out just a couple of days ago, so going around promoting it, doing the radio thing. I've got another single coming out in August called Home for the Summer, and I'm going to play that for you, which is probably the most upbeat kind of poppy song on the album, because I kind of like down, dirty, miserable songs, really. They're my favourite. So Home for the Summer is the most upbeat and positive song on there, so that's the next single. The video will be out, and just look up Steve Young Home for the Summer on YouTube and you'll see the video for that. And that will be promoting that in the next 6 weeks, basically, as well as the album.
Yes.
Applying it all in together.
No, it's good. And if we want to find out more about you, where can we go? What can we do?
Look me up on all types of social media. Steve Young UK. That's my website. It's my Facebook. It's my Twitter, and it's my Instagram. Steve Young UK.
Excellent. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Trading smiles and sunshine drinking. The winter's gone up in spring cleaning. Feels like it's a long time coming. I hope it's here to stay. And I'm home for the summer. And it's clearer now, 'cause this is my place. Where I belong, and I'm home for the summer. And I see it now, the sun will be shining. I'm thinking that nothing's gonna bring us down. Lay with me, make shapes in the clouds. Devils in the sky, but today that's allowed. Feel the warmth as we leave the black. Your hand in mine, blue sky is back. Here I'm home for the summer. And it's clearer now, this is my place. You're where I belong, and I'm home for the summer. And I see it now, the sun will be shining. I'm thinking that nothing's gonna bring us down. Long nights blurred my thoughts, the shivers in the rain soaked up my love. Skies grey, the snow stayed away. Too timid, too shy, too beautiful for those days.